I think something's wrong with our TV. I'm serious. Come on.
Hi， 大家好，我是 Sugar。Hey guys, it's Sugar。大家好，我是 Sugar。今天是一期穿搭视频。
Angelina is a content creator with over 5 million followers, a singer,
年末从头
a cosplayer,
It could go away.
an academic weapon,
Straight A's.
I do homework the day that I get it.
and an illegal child.
I was an illegal child.
Ever since day one, she's been a content creator.
I
Day
was
one.
chronically online. My first touch point was definitely in elementary school. I made like an anime page.
But her growth is anything but linear.
I was like, this is really easy to go viral. And then I didn't post for 2 years. I told him like, I'm never gonna sing again. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I'm gonna quit this.
And she has some crazy stories to share with us.
There was this specific girl. We looked
Yeah.
exactly the same. Like literally her boyfriend thought I was her in an internet cafe.
我就不废话了 Let's get started.
Keeners, welcome back to Jumpstart Your Career with me, Gary. I am really excited to show you guys today's episode because Angelina was, first of all, such a fun person to talk to, but second of all, one of the smartest and wisest people I know. In this episode, we dive deep into her life, from her early childhood to how she got started in content creation, to her time as a business student, all the way to how she grew over 1 million followers in one summer. If you haven't already, make sure to follow and subscribe to this channel, and without further ado, let's get into the content. Angelina, welcome to Jumpstart Your Career.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Going all the way back to your childhood, oh my god, we're like starting off deep. What was your childhood like?
So I came to Canada when I was 4. I was an illegal child, so my mom like immigrated here with me.
You were an illegal child?
Yeah, because in China you're allowed to have one. But I have a brother. He's the hiring guy at BMO, actually, but he's 16 years older than me.
Oh my god.
Yes, but in terms of my childhood, like I was a relatively introverted kid. Like when I first came to Canada when I was 4, like I didn't know how to speak English. And then I had a lot of neighbors that my mom would try to get me to hang out with. They were all older than me. I remember they were like high school boys. So obviously they didn't give a fuck about me. So then I remember they would put on like anime shows to keep me entertained so they could go and play League of Legends.
Yeah.
But then I think this was a really big turning point in my life because of how into anime I became. Like I was just really into anime because every time I hung out with these people, like they would not hang out with me, they would just play anime. Another really big turning point in my childhood was a Black Friday. I remember this so distinctly, where my mom took me to Toys R Us to buy like DS games. But instead of like buying that DS game that day, like there was basically the first generation iPod that was on sale. And I was like, wait, that's really cool. Like, I want that. And she was like, oh, do you want that instead of the DS game? And I was like, why not? So I was also the first kid in my elementary school to have like a little phone, essentially.
Okay.
I think my mom didn't know that much about technology either. So I was given like unlimited internet access, which is pretty crazy. Like the things that I saw as a kid online were pretty crazy. And it was like first generation like social media, which I think I'll go into later, but I think it really shaped who I am like today as a content creator. And the fact that I was able to become one was because I had that unrestricted internet access.
So you've been like chronically online since
I
day
was
one.
chronically online. Like I remember in high school we had like classes where we would talk about screen time.
Yeah.
And I was like notoriously used as a bad example. Like my name would be put up on the board.
Oh.
Like legit, because we had to like put in our screen times, right?
Yeah.
And mine was 13 hours. Like on average.
That's crazy.
It was really bad. Like, yeah.
Like, do you really feel like those early influences in your life, like watching anime at like 6 years old and like being exposed to all that, really shaped who you are as a person and like what you want to do with your career?
I think at the time, similar to other kids, it wasn't as popular to be like, I want to be an influencer, because that wasn't a thing. Back then, you could witness like the first generation YouTubers, but it wasn't really a job that you could aspire to be. So I don't think I would have ever said when I was young, I want to be an influencer, but I really wanted to make videos. I think that was what it was. And by grade 7, we had like a sheet where we filled out, it was like, if you had 3 wishes, what would they be? And my first one was I wanted to have 10,000 followers on Instagram.
Okay.
Which is like, okay. And then I had like a flying unicorn, whatever. And then I wanted to have like purple eyes. Both of these were like very irrelevant. But the first one was I wanted to have 10,000 followers. Like I thought it would change my life. I mean, it didn't really come true until way later, but I thought like by achieving that, I would like achieve my life goal. And I would be like the YouTubers that I watched that I really loved. Even though they didn't have 10K, they had like 1 million. But I was like, that's enough, 10K.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you this, but you're a really artsy person. You sing really well, you dance and you do cosplay and everything. And it's so, were you like an artsy kid growing up? Like, did you, go to art classes? Did you have singing lessons and those things?
Yeah, I think I was definitely like a very artsy kid growing up. I really, really loved to draw. Like, I wanted to go into visual art school, actually. So I drew a lot. I sang a lot. I mean, singing was, it was more adult pressure because people say you're talented in something and you have a future in this thing. So I sang a lot. I took a lot of lessons like guitar, piano, violin, flute, harmonica. At some point, I don't know. I touched all of the instruments at some point. And then also figure skating. I did some of that, like horseback riding. I don't know. I basically had like classes in everything. And I think it got so overwhelming at one point that I quit all of them at once. It was in like grade 9 or something. Like I had a conversation with my mom. I was like, yep, like this is kind of crazy.
Classic like Asian parents.
Yeah, like Asian parent classic. I mean, it was all like fun hobby classes, but it's like I didn't really have time for anything other than these said classes. But some I do regret quitting, like piano.
Speaking of being in high school, I think that's like the era where you first started your career in social media.
Yeah, so I can like, I guess, run over my entire timeline with touching social media, like my touch points mainly. So my first touch point was definitely in elementary school when I first started my first Instagram. So that was the first social media I ever touched. I made like an anime page. And also I like congruently made another Facebook page for the same anime page. I would just like post stuff about anime. Yeah. It's still like on record. So sometimes I look it up and I'm like, haha, this was funny. And then
digital footprint.
Yeah, it's super cringe. I was like, guys, like this post if you love anime, repost if you, it was like I was making like those kinds of edits, if you know what I mean. It was like super old school. At some point, like one of my anime pages got like 20K. Oh. So it was like a relatively big page. Okay. And then what happened was that one of my elementary school classmates found it and they were like, this is really cringe. And I was like, oh. So then I went home and I deleted it. Oh. Like completely archived the entire thing. I regret it because I would love to see it now, like the Instagram version. But yeah, I archived it. And then at the end of elementary school, I started making slime. I don't know if you remember that phase of social media where slime was a big thing. So I ran a slime store. So I actually had like a Shopify. No way. Like that stuff. Yeah. So I ran a slime shop. I would send like PR packages out to like people and they would like review it. PR packages? Yeah. And then I had like giveaways. I had like a giveaway, I remember.
Was you're like actually like running a business?
Yeah, no, every time I start a social media, I take it seriously. Like if I'm doing an anime page, I do it seriously. If I'm doing like a slime page, I do it seriously. I think that's where my passion is making content and social medias. Yeah. It's not necessarily like music or anything like that. But anyway, I made a slime account. I was selling stuff like online and to people in my school. But obviously I wasn't particularly good at business at that time. So like I wasn't necessarily making a profit. Which was why my mom had to shut it down. You know what I mean? Like she was like, you're spending way too much on this. Yeah. So yeah, that was shut down. And then this is like the third touch point. So in 9th grade, I was sent back to like a Chinese summer camp. And at that time, like I made a video on Douyin. So that was my first ever Douyin video. Basically, the plot was me. I can send this video for you later.
Yeah, so I'll insert it.
Yeah, but it was basically me, my friend texting me, hey, like I'm really craving some sweets. And then I bring her one singular piece of candy on my hand from Canada all the way to China. And at the end of it, I drop the candy and it's like a funny moment. Like what the fuck? It was all scripted by me. I just thought it would be a really funny video. Like I have no idea what came into my brain because I had 0 followers. So no one would have cared about this. But I woke up and it had like 500K likes. And now it's like almost 2 million. And that was my first ever like Douyin video basically like on my new page. And I remember thinking, this is really easy. I was like, this is really easy to go viral. And then I didn't post for 2 years after that one video.
Why not?
I don't know. I didn't consider it an option because at the time I was also very bad at Chinese. So it was just such a foreign platform that it was kind of like a one-time thing. And I was like, this is easy. I could come back to this anytime. That wasn't really true. When I tried to come back to it during COVID, obviously I didn't get 500K on my first video. And I think that brings us into like the fourth stage of my social media.
Yeah.
Was COVID. And in high school, you're a bit more insecure. You're not going to start like an anime page and tell everyone about it. You know what I mean? So I went back to this very foreign platform that I saw success on like a while ago with that video. I returned to it, and I think that's how people know me as Sugar. I changed my username from Angelina ZHQ to Sugar, and I started my video journey, and now we're here.
That is so fascinating. Wait, so you've always had like a viral potential, like even when you were younger, like on these platforms, whenever you do something, you've always just had this natural ability to get views and followers.
I think that's where I'm really lucky. I think it's because I've been on social media for so long that it's something you call in Chinese, it's like 网感. Like you have a feeling that something is going to go viral. Like you don't need like a particular audience base to have confidence to post. I was actually curious about this last year. I don't know. At some point, like I need to test myself if I have the ability to make content that can go organically viral. So I made like an alt account on Douyin. So it wasn't any linkage to my main account, like anything like that. I mean, it still showed my face, but I didn't like reference anything from before. And I started making content there, and I got to like 100K, and I ditched the account. Like I was just making sure that I could still grow organically, if that makes sense. Like I was just like testing the vibes.
Side quest.
Yeah, it was a side quest for me, and I named it Salt. A lot of people ended up following it, but I haven't like updated since last year. I like posted for like 2 weeks in a row, and I was like, oh, people are still interested in me without the base, which means my content is still good. And I was like, okay, that's enough.
That is so interesting. Besides, being chronically online from a young age and sort of having this like radar of, what is going to go viral and what's not, like what else do you think makes you, because so many kids are chronically online and grow, and not all of them go viral on social media, right?
I think it was when I first got online as a kid, and I had all these like unmonitored social medias, I made a lot of online friends. And coming from like a family in Vancouver, which is notoriously like privileged, I think I was able to see like a side of the world that children who just grew up in Vancouver wouldn't have necessarily known at like that age. Because I had a lot of like best friends online. They were living in like their basement, and like their basement walls were like unpainted. Like they had like a single light bulb literally coming out from the basement, and that was like their place. Versus me, like when we FaceTime, I mean, this was kind of dangerous because don't FaceTime with strangers, but like when I FaceTime them and they were my age, like my room, it had like a purple, wallpaper. Like I was like, oh my God, like I'm living such a different life. And I think that made me realize really young that like I should be able to do things that other people weren't able to do. Whenever, for example, in high school, when I get like straight A's and stuff, I thought it was something that I have to do because other people don't have the privilege that I have. Yeah. And I, on top of that, should be able to do things that the average person can't, not because I'm better, but because I should, because my environment is better.
It's so interesting because you see a lot of really famous creators like Alex Earl and like Jake Shane or whatever, and you think like they came out of nowhere and they're like underdog stories like Emma Chamberlain, but a lot of these lifestyle creators come from money. Like their family is already like pretty wealthy and they already had an aspirational lifestyle even before making content. So it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think in the influencer industry especially is one that makes rich people richer, because one is, even to start off this hobby, I guess you would know because you make content as well, but before you start to build a following, it takes so much build up content and build up time investment that you might not see any return on ever, right? Like even as a kid in elementary school, so if you can imagine the amount of money I've technically put into this, from grade 7, I would buy like a lot of makeup, a lot of costumes, a lot of props, things like that. Like coming from a lower class family, like I'm sure your parents wouldn't even be supporting like a hobby like this. And especially like me being into cosplay, My mom took me to my first anime convention. I was in a cosplay, but those things are super expensive.
Yeah, and you have so many too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's really paradoxical because luxury brands sponsor you when they see you wearing luxury, you know, or they see you have a luxury lifestyle. Or like cosplay stuff, they sponsor you when they see you doing a lot of cosplay, which is like you earn money for things you already spent probably like thousands and thousands of dollars on already, right? So
Okay, going back maybe just to your start. When did you actually start like taking content creation seriously on Douyin in high school?
I think it was when I reached the 300K mark on Douyin. And my dad is a big businessman. He's like a businessman in China.
Yeah.
So he had like a very serious conversation with me. And that's when he was like, maybe you could make this your career.
Yeah.
And you should take this seriously. And I didn't take it seriously then, but I think that's where the seed got planted in my head that it was possible. Yeah.
Wait, and how old were you like when you started making those Douyin videos during COVID?
I guess like in grade 8 and grade 9, I was always making casually, like posting like once a month or something like that. But it was really like when COVID hit, I think that was grade 10 or end of grade 10. I'm not too sure, but that was when I posted every day. So it was basically like daily posting for like 3 months.
I remember we were eating with like Iris and Steven and Kevin the other day, and she was telling the story. I think you were telling the story of how like in your friend group, a lot of the other girls were also posting stuff on social media, and that you actually started like a bit later than them. And like,
it was actually, it's crazy where we are now where I am now, because during COVID, everyone was posting Douyin. It was like the cool thing to do. It was like the new social media. And I remember all of them, every single girl in my friend group, they had a viral video. Like at least 10K, right? It was like the 10K mark was like the viral mark at the time, because your likes go from thousands to like 10K, which is like, whoa, right? And I was the only one. And I remember, oh my God, like they really have it. And I was so jealous, not in like a hate you way, but it was just like, like I aspire, you know? And there was this specific girl, I guess I'm not gonna mention her in case she watches this, but I mean, actually it's good on her, so I'll mention it. But her name was Paula, and it was a really funny comparison because we notoriously looked the same. Like in our communities, we looked exactly the same. Like if you ask anyone in Vancouver about Paula back in the day, like I was linked to her. Or if you ask me, or if you talk to me, like you would think of her, because we looked so alike. We were the exact same height. We had the same hair. We kind of had like the same facial structures. Maybe our like talking was a bit different, but that was literally it.
I'll put like side by side comparison.
And like there was this one time where like literally her boyfriend thought I was her in an internet cafe.
Wow.
Like that is how similar we looked. And she was going viral. Her videos were doing so well, and she was like the it girl, like in Vancouver at the time. She was younger than me, and all her videos were going super viral. She started like live streaming. Like there were people asking to like sign her, which I've never heard of at the time. So it was a very new concept. I was like, oh my God, like these big companies want to sign you. And I was like, wow, like I wish that was me. You know, it was kind of like looking into a parallel universe where this person, there's literally like everyone says she looks like you, and she's going viral, and literally no one cares about your videos. But I think the most important thing for anyone starting out, and for like me included at the time, is just to, if you really believe in it, like continue doing it. And it sounds really cheesy, but it's very easy to give up on something like social media, because you never know if there's ever going to be any turnaround. Unlike climbing the corporate ladder, where you could see that if you continue doing this for 2 years, you're gonna, you know, get promoted. But in social media, you never know. You might be on this hill for the rest of your life and you're never going to see anything. But I think if you are genuinely passionate about it, just continue doing it. Because I think at the end of the day, while all of these people were going viral, they didn't really continue it. And I think at some point, I think now maybe they regret it, maybe they don't care about it. But it's something that you could very easily give up, because it's not like a job where you could go back to it after 2 months. If you don't post for 2 months, you know, you maybe have lost everything that you've built, especially as someone who's starting out.
Yeah. Wait, that is so scary to think about. That you're kind of constantly on this like hamster wheel a little bit, that you have to keep going. And
yeah, no, 100%. And you could see now that the turnaround of influencers is so quick. Like even during YouTube, YouTubers, I remember back in the day, they would complain about it, that like actors, they have acting seasons, right? YouTubers don't have seasons. You can't take a break. If you take a break, you're out of the game, basically. Like someone's going to take your spot almost immediately. And for TikTok or short form content is even worse.
When you are starting out, I think for a lot of creators, the biggest thing is the cringe factor of making content, especially if you're making content that's like kind of a bit out there. You're stepping out of your comfort zone and trying different things. How did you overcome like the cringe in the beginning?
I think it's hard to tell a 16-year-old how to overcome cringe, but I can say that it is so necessary to overcome it. It's kind of I compare it to like cringe mountain. Like you can literally imagine it as that. Like the way up is so hard and you're genuinely going to get so much judgment. Like I mentioned before, I literally deleted like my page of 20K because one person made a comment and was like, this is kind of cringe when I was grade 7. I think my situation is a little bit unique because like I said, I didn't really go up cringe mountain because I shifted my platform to something that no one could see. And I think cringe mountain, the top of the mountain, is when you start getting actual like likes and traction and followers to the point where people can't really say it's cringe. You know, that's where you like really made it because it's like, why are you calling me cringe? Like, do you have, 100K likes or something like that? Like, that's when you can counter the cringe. But
you're like, girl, I'm making money.
Yeah, it's like, girl, come on. But the hardest part of cringe mountain is when you have like 4 likes and someone is like, that's cringe. And you're like, oh, well, maybe it is,
Yeah. So in the beginning, you were sort of like, okay, I don't want my friends, Western friends in Vancouver to see this. So I'm just going to start posting on Douyin.
Yeah. So I would say I got really lucky because people met me kind of at the part of cringe mountain where it wasn't really cringe anymore. Because the fact that they found out about it was the fact that they probably got it on their For You page or they heard about it from someone else. So at that point, like I wasn't really met with like, this is really cringe, you should stop doing it. But I think it is, I think other people have said this before, but the barrier to entry of social media is the cringe. And I think with something like social media or even the entertainment industry in general, like there's kind of a cycle here that people don't really talk about, but it's like weird kids always start the trend and then it becomes popular. And then popular kids start imitating that trend. So it's like a cycle of people think whatever is going viral is popular, but it was started off by a weird kid that no one thought was popular. Because if you're popular kids follow the trend. They don't create them because they're scared of being weird, right? So if you have weird thoughts and you have weird ideas, I strongly recommend you to go for it and make content because I see potential in that. But no hate to people who make content like this, but if you are like a popular girl in school and you make like dancing content to like Charli D'Amelio's new dance and like lip syncs to the new popular lip sync, unless you are like insanely pretty or you have something else to offer, like a hidden talent or like you're really smart and you can give some nice takes on things, I don't know, because most of the, I guess, people that ask me for advice, they want to be popular. They want to become viral with content like that. But the harsh reality is if you're always following the trend, it's very hard to gain a following.
Yeah, it's like you're like every other bitch trying to get famous.
I've always thought that if something is already viral, it's too late to hop on it. Because if you want to be a pioneer in something, it has to be something that people put you down for. Because if everyone is like, that's a really good idea, they would have done it. And they would be known for it right now, right? So it's like, I personally think if someone is like, oh, I don't know if that's, the best video idea, I think you should go for it.
Yeah. And like going back to your point earlier about how weird kids start the trends, I feel like so many trends are so weird. Like the demure trend.
You see how I do my makeup for work? Very demure, very mindful.
And then, do you remember last year or 2 years ago, there was like a tube girl and she was like going like that on the subway.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like genuinely, if you think back to any trend ever, it's 100% started by a weird kid. It becomes popular when the popular kids start doing it and they adopt it, right? And it's like the new cool thing. But they would never start it because it's out of like their comfort zone, right? I guess it wasn't even popular kids. It's just like kids with more secure comfort zone, I'd say.
Do you think this is like this philosophy of not being afraid to be weird and putting yourself out there is how you sort of, I guess, gain your first initial batch of followers on Douyin?
Yeah, 100%. And I think in a way, this is like, in a way it's not, but in high school, I didn't really like have that many friends. I had like one good friend. And so I actually wasn't really scared of judgment, like from friends. I was scared of judgment from like the public, you know what I mean? Which is why I didn't post on TikTok. But I didn't really have like any friends that would be like, this is really cringe. But I can imagine that if I was widely liked in school and I had like a big friend circle, I don't think I would have ever done social media for that reason, because I would fear the judgment. And second, I would not have that much time. Because I knew a lot of popular kids. I mean, I've not really known them, but I've seen their lives and they're so busy. Like they go to class, after class, they got to hang out, they got to hang out, they got to eat dinner, and they got to go play sports. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, like if that was me, I would not have any time to do content.
Yeah.
And I think this is a consensus that I've had with a lot of content creators, is that all content creators were kind of like weird and outcasted, and they had a lot of free time.
And because they didn't have that many friends, they don't really care about the judgment.
Yeah, no, which is why I say like my advice on like the cringe factor is slightly biased, because like I said, one, I didn't really have that many friends. Second of all, I kind of like dodged it by just going on a different platform. And like third,
which is like valid. Like there's no shame in that.
Yeah, like I just dodged it, right? So I think it's unfair for me to be like, you can just overcome the cringe, because I didn't. I ran from it. Right, but now in hindsight, I can say that it's worth it. Like there's something on that mountain that's worth it. If you really love to film and you love to entertain and you love to film content, it's worth it. But I know that if I was 16 and I heard that, I'm like, well, social hierarchy is the world. Like if I were to be judged, that's the end of the world. So
yeah. Okay, I think next we're gonna talk about like entering like university, like business school, and like maybe more so like the behind the scenes of like your milestones when it comes to making content, because you really popped off in university. Why did you choose to go to business school at U of T?
So business has always been something that I knew I was going to go into, because my dad was in business and my brother is in business. My whole family is in business. My dad talks about how great business is all the time.
Money
is really great. Now I'm really happy about that decision, by the way. Like I really like ramen, and I'm really glad that I chose business, because I feel like, especially if you're going to do media, go into something that doesn't have anything to do with media. Inspiration comes from life that is unrelated to your job. A lot of the theories we learn in business, and even business cases, they apply to things like media. I feel like media is more universal than people think it is. It's very easy to go viral, if I were to put it that way. Like I can probably make this video go viral if I were to say something really offensive right now. When you do social media, the easiest way to go viral is the strongest human emotion, obviously, and that's anger. So you see that a lot of angry type of content, and it goes viral very easily. If your goal is to go viral, I suggest you make people angry, right? But that is never what I suggest you do. I would say when you start to make content, think about how you want to make people feel. And ironically, the most low energy emotion is like introspect or like thought-provoking things, which is why this type of media, you don't see it as much, or you don't really see it unless people really like shove it in your face, or you're interested in learning about something, then you will search something like this up. But if you see content organically, you're going to see a lot of anger. You're going to see a lot of sadness. You're going to see a lot of nostalgia, which is why if you're trying to go viral, make someone really angry and make them really sad and make them nostalgic, make them think of a time that they used to have that they don't have now. Make someone really sad. That's what I suggest you do. For my content, I want to like, this sounds really cheesy, but I also want to inspire people, and I want to like, I guess I'm lucky because with something like singing, you could invoke feelings of sadness through a song. A lot of my Chinese viral videos, they're like really sad Chinese songs. And people are like, oh, like this made me shed a tear, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So any content ever, it really comes down to the emotion. And even with like APT, right? It's just like very high energy. It gives you like this sort of adrenaline. But it is like that physical response that makes something go viral. So I think this will be useful for jumpstarting your social media career. But there's one thing I suggest people never do, One is to like buy likes and followers and engagement, because I've had some conversations with older individuals, like 30 plus, 40 plus, who are looking into doing social media. And the first thing they tell me is like, oh, I plan on buying 10,000 followers first to make my account look more credible. I really strongly advise against that because I think that stems from the fact that people don't really know how the algorithm works. The only difference between 0 followers and like buying engagement is your initial audience pool. So for example, if you have 0 followers, you're just starting up an account, usually the default amount of views that they give is 50. So 50 unique people are going to see your video. And the only thing that matters is the ratio of engagement. It doesn't matter what your initial pool is. So if your video sucks and you buy engagement and your pool of 50 goes to 5,000, but the ratio of that still stays the exact same, you just wasted a lot of money. But if your video is good, I've always believed that if my video is good, I can keep an audience of 50. If just 50% of the 50, 25 people watch through the video, and even just like 5 of them like it, that's literally the exact same of if you put that ratio into 5,000. But how to grow is if more than 50% of your initial pool reacts with your videos. And this can occur through like, first thing, watch through rate, second thing, like, third, comment, fourth, share. If you're able to get through this entire line, and more than 50% go through this tunnel, then you have basically become viral, because that is so rare. What you can expect is that most people like it, and then some people comment about it. You might even don't even think about the share. When it becomes share, that becomes viral. Yeah, basically when you're creating any content, people start with a hook because it keeps the engagement through, and you at least keep them for the first 3 seconds. This song is so catchy. So that's really important.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't even watch the first 3 seconds, they basically didn't watch the video. So if you're able to keep that 3 seconds, you've already entered like a different zone here. Now you're trying to get their like. So now you're trying to create some quality content that's going to get them to like your video. And when that happens, your videos are slowly going to go from initial pool of 50 to something like 500, to something like 5,000, to something like, 50K.
Yeah.
And when this happens, this is when you become an influencer. It's when anything you post, you can at least guarantee that reaches 50,000 people. And that's when brands are going to reach out, because anything you post, people will see it.
I wonder, when you're talking about like your retention rate, what is your retention rate on the average video?
So my retention rate is,
I feel like it's really high. I don't
it's like, I think usually my watch, like people who watch the entire video, it's going to be a lot lower than people think. Like it's literally like 5% probably.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. And you can think about it, and it's like, I've already reached such a big audience pool. I guess that's more of like longer videos. With like singing videos or shorter videos that are under 30 seconds, you can expect around something like 15 to 25%. Yeah, but it's still like lower than people think. And that is like at a level where you have 1 million followers, right?
Like I really thought it was gonna be 50%.
No, like that's why I'm saying, if you have 50% like watch through rate, and you have likes, and you have comments, and you have shares, you have 1 mega viral. Like I'm saying that is like the top of the mountain.
Wait, it's so surprising how I felt like when you're making content, you're more so, just going with your own intuition and your own like ideas and thoughts, and more of like a spur of the moment thing. But it's so cool how you have it down to the science and like the metrics and like sort of like the back end analytics of an actual video.
Yeah, I think that's one of the parts of content creation that I feel like are really overlooked. It's a lot more analytical than people think, because if it was so easy, it wouldn't be so sought after, and it wouldn't have such high pay, right? There is something in there that is a little bit hard to obtain, and it's usually something that people don't want to show.
Especially on social media, because the barrier of entry is so low that anybody can make a video and post it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that is why at some point you have to get so analytical, because you are consistently being like berated by these threats. Like, for example, if I'm in an era where I'm going really viral, it's easy to believe that it's going to go on forever. You're like, this is going to go on forever. I'm going to go chill now. Like, I'm going to go on a vacation now or whatever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. And I think people forget to do the analyzing part, where you analyze yourself and why your video in that era went so viral. Because it is basically like a business. You need to understand why things succeeded and why things failed. And I think people take it for granted that something went viral and they like go on break and they come back and they're like, oh my God, like what has changed? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's like what I kind of want to ask you as well, because social media is such an unconventional career, and we're in business school. Like everyone around us is talking about these more traditional career paths. Be a consultant, be an accountant, which is probably never going to happen or cross your mind. Because you go to business school and because a lot of your friends are in this life, do you ever feel peer pressured to choose a more traditional career path and sort of put your social media career more on the backseat?
Definitely, because one, as someone who's from like a family background of business, I also get a lot of like push from my brother and from my dad, and especially like seeing my own income fluctuate at times, because you know it really depends on how relevant you are at the time. In times when you like get no traction, you're gonna get no ads. So in those times of like zero income, I'm thinking, oh my God, like I'm screwed, because one, I don't have that many internships. All my internships are about media. I'm not that good at accounting, like I said in the beginning, and I don't like a traditional job. It's like that impending doom of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to go do something I don't love to do. I think what's really allowed me to choose something like media is, ironically, my dad, who also pushes me to do traditional business, is that he started off so unconventional. He's a very famous marketer in China, and he began like as a popsicle boy. Like he would just sell popsicles and stuff like that on the street. And he's from like very rural China, like countryside China. And he became a marketer, and he became very known because he was so unconventional with his marketing. Like he was just like a really good networker. He had a lot of ideas that were very unconventional to his time. And he went down a route that a lot of people didn't agree with back in his day. Right? And I think my dad, when he sees me, he's scared because he kind of sees himself, and he sees that if one thing had gone wrong in his journey where he could have ended up, like he always says that he got really lucky because he went down an unconventional route and he succeeded. But he's saying like, this is, you know, survivorship bias. There's a lot of people who were like me who, you know, ended up going back to their hometown and they didn't ever make it out of the country. So he's saying like, are you going to be as lucky and as me, basically? And he's saying like, you know, he's scared that I'm not as lucky as him. And also, I guess coming from a more sexist country, like he's saying like, you're a girl as well, like you should do a good corporate job, or you get all the benefits of a corporate job and you could climb up the ladder. And he's saying like he was a dude, so he could like go run around and do these unconventional things, but he's like, you're a girl, so you shouldn't be doing all of that. Yeah, but I think I'm lucky in the sense that they're more in support of it now, even though I don't know what they're thinking. Like internally, they might still be like, oh, Angelina, like this girl, right? But at least verbally, they're like, you know, we support what you want to do.
Yeah. You know, because most of your content is in music and cosplay, do you feel like you're learning anything useful in your business classes?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys had this chapter, I assume you did, but it's about like, it was like one of the buildings that was built architecturally so unintuitive that it kept having like people from different majors bump into each other. And basically what happened is that because people of different majors kept bumping into each other, they were making very unconventional connections. And then it ended up that like a lot of the best ideas or projects came from that building because people from different majors were collaborating with each other versus sticking in their own majors. That was the lesson there. And I think that is so applicable to media because you never get better at media by learning more about media. You get better at doing media when you learn more about humans and people and how society is run and the trends of current day. I think even with singing, there's different ways you can portray something like a cover video. If you learn something like business, you know that the product is equally as important as like the portrayal of it or how you market it, right? So if you're singing like a sad song, Heather by Conan Gray, like if you're trying to make it look really sad, maybe you should pull out your guitar, maybe you should set the ambience lighting to like really low. You know, if you're trying to sing like a high energy video like APT when I was singing it, you know, maybe you should hold the phone, maybe you should walk around, because those are things that really sell the feeling. I changed the format of my videos according to how I want to make them feel. So APT, I have a lot of like motion in there. I'm walking around, I'm changing the camera angle to literally face the mirror at some point, right? There's just so much motion that it's just like kind of overwhelming. And that's the energy that I want to give. But generally, like people don't like things that look high effort. They want to think that you picked up your phone, you walked around your room and you sang APT, because that gives the feeling of like a girly sleepover. You know what I mean? That's like the feeling you're getting. But, you know, people don't know that it took like an hour for me to walk around in my room. I had like 30 takes of that. Because when people know that, it takes you out of the immersion.
Yeah.
Or like in a sad song when it's like, oh, that wasn't the first time she picked up her phone and like sang very sadly into the camera. Like, dang it, like that takes me out of the immersion.
Yeah, it's cool to think that like you're essentially more like a creative, almost like an ad agency in a sense, where you're like really thinking about these things pretty strategically and like planning things out and looking at things from like a more like marketing strategic perspective. So I guess like you are learning like a lot of useful stuff in school.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy I'm in business because I feel like I get to apply a lot of the stuff. There was another business video. It was about like this guy basically asked like Americans what type of coffee they like. And everyone's like, we like dark black coffee. But when it comes to like the market, people don't like dark black coffee. They like coffee with a lot of sugar and milk. And that's the exact thing when you ask people what they see on media. They tell you they want really high quality, authentic content. But when it comes to what is actually going viral, you realize that is essentially never the case. People don't like high quality, authentic content. And you realize that when you make content, look inside yourself. Like, what do you want to see? Versus asking people what they want to see.
Yeah. I guess like one last question I'll ask about the business school chapter is, you're actually secretly an academic weapon. Someone told me this, but your GPA is like above 3.7.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Are people surprised to find out?
I would say I don't really tell many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in first year, like I had like a 3.8 or something like that.
Yeah.
Now it's more like a 3.7. Yeah, I was like a big nerd, like academic wise. I really like to learn, maybe not excel, but other than that, like I love it. I think the biggest mistake people make academically is they think that university is the same as high school. Like I also didn't study that much in high school and I got like good grades, which is the argument that most people make. But like you can't study the same amount that you do in high school and apply it to university. Like you have to make that change in your head. You have to know that you can't start the night before and get the same marks, especially in U of T. Yeah. Right? So once you make that distinction, you know you're smart enough. I believe everyone is smart enough. You just have to plan then enough time to do it. Right? I would start like 2 weeks before. I would just only study one chapter a day because for like final exams, it's like 12 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I would just like start 2 weeks ahead. I'd only do a chapter a day, which only took me like an hour. By the end of it, I didn't have to cram anything.
You have really good time management skills.
I would be like, I literally watched like the entire season of Arcane back in first year, like during exam season at the end of it, because I had nothing to do. And that was when everyone was cramming for it. Because sometimes I make the mistake of pushing it too early, and I'd be done too early, and then I have nothing to do like the day before the exam.
You're like Hermione from Harry Potter.
I don't know. I really love to study, and I think it's different now because like so much time is required to maintain like the 4 platforms that I have. Yeah. But I think I really like thank the study habits that my mom really put onto me and like that I've gotten used to, because I'm able to even do something like 4 platforms, because that's also like a big time investment. Yeah. And that really came from like the habits that I got from like beginning of university, where I had to like do all of the courses and do social media and like look for internships. They had an internship back then, like things like that. And I know like how much I can take on. And if I have gaps in like my time, I can fill it with something that I'm passionate with. So I guess like a lesson for people out there, just like if you're in school right now and you're not really sure what your passion is, I would say study, not because of the material, but because you know how to manage yourself and you learn discipline. For anything that you want to do ever in your life, discipline is the most important thing.
Speaking of, you juggling so many things, how do you balance like school and content and like your personal life and everything?
That's a good question. And I think it's a relatively difficult question in the sense that I don't really think I have like a content schedule per se. You can't really have a schedule for creative things, because even if you set aside the time and you sit down, like, what should I film? I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to film. Like, this sucks. Yeah. So my best advice for people who do content creation or anything creative in general is the fact that whenever you have free time, do your work, so that when you get creative, you have time to do that.
Oh.
That's the philosophy I go by, and that's what's worked for me like throughout my entire university career is I do homework the day that I get it. That makes time for me to go film my content when I get the inspiration to, versus like if I plan to do my homework on Thursday because it's due on Thursday, but then on Thursday I'm like, oh, like it would be a great video to film this right now, but I can't because I need to do my essay.
Especially like when you like procrastinate things, that's when you get creative sometimes.
Exactly. And a lot of my creative, juices kind of get flowing like at the worst time possible, like during midterm season, during final season, when like the new big essay is due. So I've learned that genuinely like the best thing to do is that when you have nothing to do your schoolwork, and you'll thank yourself later when you want to film something.
Wow. Okay, walk me through like a typical day in your life. I feel like no day is typical in your life, but what is your typical schedule like? For example, what time do you wake up? Like when do you do schoolwork? When do you go to class? And then when do you film content? Just like how it works essentially.
Yeah, so I guess it's a bit different for different like stages of the year, but I'm gonna talk about I guess like China first, because when I was in China that was like summer break, and it was like typically very busy for influencers, plus the fact that I was in the country of the platform that I use on. So yeah, in China I woke up at like, it was pretty early. I'd wake up at around like 8 a.m. and then I'd like go to the gym, and then I'd come back, and then sometimes I get really tired, so then I'd like nap or something.
Go to the gym, like wake up at 8 and then go to the gym and then nap right up.
Yeah, it was not great, because I guess similar to everyone, like I'm really just like a regular person. I just like wanted like the habit of going to a gym, but then after going to the gym I'm like, oh, this is literally hell, like I'm gonna like freaking sleep now. But anyway, that's beyond the point. So I would go to the gym, come back, and then I'd film ads mostly, because at the time like there were a lot of ads, and ads take a long time because you have to go back and forth with the client, and also you have to like script your video, you have to give them multiple versions. There's multiple times when I finished a video and one thing is wrong about it and I have to refilm the whole thing. Yeah, so that would take like a really long time. And then plus during summer I had an internship, so that was usually actually after I go to the gym I'd have to go to my internship, but I was very often late. It was just like wake up, gym, internship, filming, and that was my entire life.
So like so your work would end, I'm assuming like 5 p.m. and then you go film videos after?
Yeah, so actually in China work ends at 7 p.m.
Oh.
Which is why I had to quit my internship early. Okay. I made a post about it. I was like, I quit my job.
Oh, it's like you quit your job, but you still love your team or something.
Yeah. No, I had to quit my internship. It was way too much because I would get off at 7. You can imagine by the time you're done dinner, it's like 8 or 9, right? Because you're chilling after your like work day. And then at 9, I'm like, I do not want to like get ready right now and film anything. Yeah. So it was like not a good type of like lifestyle. I would say it was very unsustainable. Like I kept it up for about 3 months, I would say. And then I like slept for like 2 weeks. And then a typical school day, I guess, would be a lot more chill in the sense that I go to class and then I go home and do my homework and then I film. It's typically how you would imagine it to be, except that your schedule is it's not really like under your control. I would say that is the only difference between like a typical student, is that you can't really control when your income arrives. Like you can't really control when these offers come. So for example, yesterday, like I had an offer for like a cover on TikTok and they were offering like 1.2 USD, but it was like, you have to give this video by tonight. So yeah, there's a lot of these. So in these cases, you just have to be prepared to like be up until 3 a.m. to like finish this video. And it's like, how bad do you want this 1.2K? So I'm saying like, if you're trying to be an influencer, just be expected for your schedule to change all the time. And like I said, that makes like the time management all the more important, because for example, if I like I didn't really have anything to do yesterday, so I was lucky. But if I did have an essay due and I had that essay and I also had like an offer of 1.2K come in, then it's like, what's the opportunity cost here? Like obviously you're going to choose the essay because you don't want to lose like 15%, but you also have to live with the guilt that you just missed out on like 1.2 USD. Right? So if you really want to make money as an influencer, you have to give yourself that time. And that means to do like the necessary things you have to do when you have time to do it. Yeah.
Another question is, what are like the major milestones that you had in your social media career? Because you're telling me this the other day, but it wasn't like a very linear progression. There was like a lot of like ups and downs and a lot of pivots and evolutions that you had to have.
So I think when it comes to content creation, like people shouldn't have like a specific numerical goal, because you'll find that when you are truly going viral or you have a video that does well, your numerical goal isn't really going to matter and you're going to pass it very easily. Like for example, I think 300K is a good hallmark for the fact that you've had a viral video or two. Because when you have a viral video or two, and when I say viral, I'm referring to like about like 1 million likes. When that happens and you have like a decent amount of video buildup, so you have previous content, expect to gain like 300K. And that's through like one successful video. When you think of making content and none of your videos are going viral, just rest well, because these are all content that's going to matter when something goes viral. They're going to click into your page and you're going to have previous content. That's what's going to let you gain 300K. If you don't have any good content previous to your viral, I would say expect to gain like 10 to 20K. And this is a very, very big difference. You're looking at like 300K boost versus like 10 to 20K boost just from like previous buildup. So this is very important, and you're never really wasting any videos because you know that it's contributing towards this. Once your first viral video, you can expect your initial pool of viewers to boost up by a lot. So when we talked originally, like you're expecting like 50 viewers. After your viral video, you can expect like 50K probably. But this is only going to last for your next like 3 to 7 videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you don't keep it up. The safest is to say after your viral video, the next 2 videos, they'll boost it a lot because they are expecting the same quality. But if it is not the same quality, like expect that to drop. So I would say when you are, when you go viral, I would say really seize that opportunity and make the next 2 videos really good. And this means like analyzing the video that went viral and see what is about it that people really, really love, and like kind of pump out like 2 more videos that are similar in the sense, not necessarily in content, but maybe even in feeling or in theme, something like that. And if you get that momentum going, from that initial viralness, I would say expect to go up to 600K. You can really ride that momentum, and that's the most important thing. That's what all influencers are waiting for 24/7, is for something to go viral so they can hop on it, so they can hop on that momentum.
I remember that Logan cucumber guy, he went viral for eating the cucumber, and then he started posting 3 cucumber videos a day. I'm like, this man is eating too many cucumbers for his health. But I think that's like your point of like, once you know something that works, just keep doing it.
And I think this sort of advice, like, I wish I would have known when I was young, because I had a lot of cases where I had like 1 million likes on something and I had a lot of people, like new followers, come in, and then I just like ditched the account. Because I thought like it was like a daily thing. Like I was like, this is easy. Like I could recreate this any day, right? But that's not really true. I mean, I agree that I've been lucky in the sense that I've had a lot more viral moments than most. But if I had seized all of them, that would have been a very different ballpark, because each time you go viral, in the sense that you pass 1 million likes and you ride a momentum, you can expect to gain like 300K each time if you're able to really like seize that opportunity. So I wouldn't say like think of content creation like linear growth. It's very sporadic. If you were to put like content creation follower gain into like a graph, it would probably look something like this, and then it'd like go down and then like go back up. So it's like a zigzag, like this way. You know what I mean? And it's never like this.
And the zigzag can be really sharp.
Yeah, it can be really sharp. So I think like the buildup is so important, because if you were to go suddenly viral, you might not even know how to handle it, because it depends what you go viral for, but you might also be faced with a lot of like hate and criticism, especially if you're suddenly gaining a lot of traction and then maybe like you don't really have a lot of media training and you like say something, like your career could be over, especially in this age, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would say if you're someone who's looking to go into content creation, start making content. Like it doesn't matter what it is, start making it and learn as you go. No video you post is ever a waste. And I feel like people kind of make that mistake, because a lot of my friends, like when they post something and it doesn't do well, they just delete it. But you just have to know that like everything is building up towards something. You just have to keep going.
It's like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. It's never like, oh, they made like one video, they went viral, and then they shot all the way up. Yeah. It's more like they've been doing this for a long time. And when they finally caught that wave, they know exactly what to do with it and already have the support and the system built in to keep pushing and keep going forward. Another really interesting thing is you essentially, when you started out, you're only doing mostly cosplay content. And it was only after you started doing singing covers that you went like mega viral and started getting like tens of millions of views pretty consistently. I remember you were telling me how you had like, you were like stuck at 600K for like 2 years, right? And you almost quit, I think, over that period.
I did. So when I entered university, I was at about 600K. I've been at 600K for a really long time at that point. And that was like the first summer break that I ever spent in Canada, because usually I'd go back to China. Because at that point, like a lot of people knew me for social media. And as a first year girl in business, I really wanted to make it work. Like I wanted to have a career in social media. That year, like I gave up an internship. And during summer break, I had one goal, and that was to gain followers on my Douyin. That was literally my only goal. I dedicated my entire summer to doing that, and I posted like every day, if not every other day. So a lot of content. And every single time I posted, I lost followers.
You lost followers?
It wasn't even like stagnant. It was just I lost followers. And I couldn't understand why. Like I was so frustrated because I've never like dedicated so much time to it. Like usually I would just do it congruent with school or congruent with like high school and things like that, and it went fine. But suddenly when I'm doing it full time, like it's going worse. And that was like for straight, like 3 months straight. And I was like completely like defeated. You could see my numbers go down like every time you refresh the day I woke up. So I couldn't understand why. And you know, because I have never dedicated so much time exclusively onto something, like in the beginning of summer, I said that if I didn't pass 1 million, and I have pretty like harsh milestones for myself because that's what I feel like makes me work. I wanted to go from 600K to 1 million at least during the summer, or else I was going to quit. It would like before it didn't even matter that if I gained like 200K or if I gained 300K, it was 600 to 1 million. But the fact that I hadn't gained anything and lost, you know, followers, I was like, wow, like this is not even what I expected. Like I expected to at least gain something, maybe not reach my goal, but you know, like grow.
Went in the other direction.
I was like, huh? And then I remember it was the last 2 weeks before school started. It was getting really close, you know, considering 3 months have passed by now. And I was like, oh, like, you know, this is it. Like, I'm going to quit this. I'm not going to be like a social media content creator anymore. I'm going to go like find a job at BMO. Maybe my brother can get me in there. I was like, oh my God, this sucks. And then I posted like a cover video at 3 a.m., which is the worst time to post because who the fuck is seeing that, right? And I didn't even care anymore. My usual posting time is like noon. I post at 3 a.m. I was like, I don't care if anyone sees this anymore. Like no one likes my stuff anyway. I woke up and it gets over 1 million likes. And I was like, oh my God, like, wait, guys, like maybe there's hope here. So I followed that up with another video. It actually did better than the first one. And I passed 1 million in like 3 days.
You reached your goal.
Yeah, I reached my goal in 3 days, and that was like literally like perfectly a week before school started. And that was like the closest I've ever gotten to quitting. It was very, very close. Like I have basically decided in my head when I posted that 3 a.m. video that I wasn't going to do this anymore.
Your like last video.
It was my last video, basically, yeah. And it was the one that popped off. And I think a lot of context behind this is that like when I was younger, I was always known for being good at singing. Like I knew that about me from a very young age, but I never liked it. And I think a part of me not posting singing before then was a bit of like delinquency towards like my dad specifically, because he wanted me to be a singer. But I didn't want to be a singer. And because like I was made to learn so many instruments that I all hated very much, like when I got free will as like a teenager in high school, I quit everything to do with music. Like up to 600K, I've never sung a cover. It was purely like skits. It was purely like cosplay.
Transition video.
Purely that. And I didn't sing. And I was set on not singing because I actually like, one of my motivations for doing videos was to prove a point to my dad that I could do something that wasn't singing. That was actually one of my initial points, which was why I was so against it and I didn't consider doing it, and also why it would have been one of my last attempts at doing it, because I was like, here you go, Dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're telling me to sing, I'll sing. But the thing is, he was right? You can't really change what you're good at. And there was one thing that my dad told me is like, you don't need to compete with people with things that you're bad at. You just take the one thing that you're good at and you become very, very good at it. And no one can defeat you ever. Now that I'm older, I understand why he wanted me to go into that industry, even though I still don't like it. But I can understand from his perspective, like, why it could have been good for me, which I was very strongly against as a kid, because I was like, I hate it. Like, I hate it. But now I understand, and I sing. It's not like I hate it. Like, I like singing, and the fact that I get to portray singing in different sorts of like video methods, it'll also makes it more fun to me. Like I said in the beginning with you, like there's different ways that I sing different songs and different camera angles, different lightings that I use, and that makes it fun for me. So yeah, like now I sing and now I get to do all the other stuff, and I think it's also me coming into like acceptance with a lot of things as a kid of where I was super against it versus now I'm like very accepting of it. It's just a part of who I am.
Yeah. I'm curious, why do you not like singing? Like, what do you not like about it in the beginning?
I think it has really like overtaken my life. My life was just music, but I didn't love music like that. Every time I went somewhere, it was like a circus. Like they would just be like, okay, now sing for us. But it was every single event ever. And I was so upset about it as like a little kid because I just wanted to have fun with my friends, like I guess my family friends, but then I would be pulled away to like sing like some Chinese song for the adults for entertainment. And also there was also the, like I said, the embarrassment factor of having all your friends see that at every single function ever.
Yeah.
And then also, I guess the male and female voice both, there's a time when your voice starts changing and you start having a lot of voice cracks.
Yeah.
It's more noticeable for men. But I also had that. So that time, like, my world was kind of like being shattered as a kid because that was the one thing I was good at and I couldn't really do it anymore. Like it was a time where everything I used to be able to sing, I couldn't do it anymore. And because I was so known for singing well, people would comment on it like very, very like explicitly. They'd be like, why do you sound like that? Or like, oh my God, she like voice cracked again.
Okay, stop singing for us now.
Yeah, I was like, But then, yeah, so that was during that time like where one of my biggest strengths became like my biggest insecurity, I would say. Yeah. Because every time I sang, like maybe I'd voice crack or like it wouldn't sound how I used to as like a literal kid, and then people would comment on it and I got really angry, and then I would say like, I'm never singing again. And I said that to my dad because I remember this very explicitly, but it was one time where I was just like singing in my room, like minding my own business, singing in my room. And then it wasn't the best solo I've had, I'll admit. Okay, I had like a lot of not great riffs in there. But then he literally came into my room after I was done, because I didn't know he was standing out there. And he was like, that was really bad. Oh. And I was like, oh. And then I remember he like sat me on the ground, and then he started showing me like videos of girls my age who were like competing on like these Chinese singing shows. And he's like, why are you not like her? Because like, first of all, y'all are the same age. Second of all, you were more talented than her as a kid. So like, why do you sound like this right now? And I was so triggered because I was just in my room minding my own business. You know what I mean? It's like shower singing. And then someone's like, yo, like that was shit. And I was like, you
should be better than that.
Yeah, he was like, you should be better. He was like, you had more potential than that. And then I was like, oh my God.
You're like, fuck this.
Yeah, I was like, fuck that. I was like, I'm done. Because I was basically hearing that like every single day. So that was like the time where I told him like, I'm never going to sing again. And I held onto that grudge, I would say, until like that 600K story that I said. And I think that's when I came into acceptance for both like our relationship and my relationship with like singing. Is that in one point he was right that I am good at singing and I should have put more effort into it. And two is that like I can't really escape that part of myself. I never started hating music. I think that is a misconception that I maybe caused, but I really liked to listen to music and I liked music as a kid. I think it was the fact that suddenly like something that you really love and are proud of becomes something that people are like, oh, you were better before, or you had so much potential, like what happened, type of thing, where you have that sort of revenge mindset. It's like, fine, like no more singing.
PTSD.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. But I guess to this day, it still carries on to the fact that I don't really listen to music, but I'm not against like singing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, that is actually crazy lore, the backstory. Okay, that was like the second section. And then there's like one more section about like how you like make money and like the most important milestones, and then that's it. Okay.
Period.
Exactly. Don't go anywhere yet because we will continue our conversation with Angelina in part 2, which I will insert on the screen. Part 2 is actually crazy because Angelina spills so much tea about her time on The Voice of China, how much money she makes, as well as her plans for the future. So go watch that episode. If you haven't subscribed or followed this podcast already, make sure to do that now, and I'll see you guys in part 2.